there are no public comments or involvement in this thing, so thank you, Mr. Kraft.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was requested by the board to craft a letter explaining Island Transit's position relative to the discontinuation of 411 funding for Camino 411 and Whitby 411, discussing the financial position of Island Transit, our inability to continue the service either in its current state or a modified state, and also the importance of regionalism in terms of connecting counties and connecting transit services between counties for the sake of work, education, social services, and so on. I actually put more in here than probably what you would want, but I wanted to make sure there was more than not enough for you to critique and either eliminate or add to. And also, I might point out that double spacing is for you to mark up, but when this is single spaced, it comes out to a single page.
Thank you. Well, I've read through this, and what it really boils down to is the funds have been discontinued to keep this the 411 W and C in service, and we are also encouraging the other transit districts to come to their borders that meet with us. We've been subsidizing their territory for quite some time. In fact, I was at a private event yesterday, and people in Skagit County were discouraged that, number one, we discontinued that service into Mount Vernon. And these are Anacortes people. And they are discouraged that we are discontinuing it, and so my comment to them was, you need to talk to Skagit, talk to your state representatives to help craft an arrangement whereby it's not just Island Transit providing overlapping service, but the other transit districts must also meet their obligations to provide seamless connectivity to the transit systems in our region. And I don't know that you can add much more to that. Any comments by the board?
I had one. I didn't know if we needed to, like in the first paragraph, elimination of intercounty, blah, blah, blah. Maybe state there or somewhere the amount of funds we lost?
I think it's irrelevant. I mean, we just lost funds, period.
Yeah.
I like the letter, and I think it's great that people in Mount Vernon and Anacortes, et cetera, are going to notice and what they see the sales tax as well.
So, on the very last sentence, and I apologize, I haven't had a lot of time to go through it, but on the very last sentence where it says, reinstatement of the 411 service will be a top priority of the Board of Island Transit's financial picture continues to improve. My concern about that is it, again, places sole ownership on Island Transit. And so I would suggest that we say something like reinstatement of the 411 service with the addition of adjacent counties and state partners will be a top priority. Because my same issues will be in place even if our funding position improves, which is it costs more for us per rider to go into Skagit County than it costs Skagit County to connect with their borders and Island. And so if we're asking for state funding, it makes more sense for that funding to go to transit. They're going to get more service for their dollar, first of all, because their cost per mile is lower. Second of all, this statement again places the onus on us to travel far into their county, where I believe that they have a responsibility to serve that portion of their county. They're not serving a state highway. How that is acceptable to the people of Skagit County is just beyond me. And then thirdly, I think regional connectivity is a responsibility of the state. So I would hesitate to do anything that takes the full ownership of providing that service back. Because I think really at issue is who's responsible for regional connectivity. And I could safely say that it's not one of the smallest counties in the state. I mean, let's be clear, that we've been shouldering a burden and for our much wealthier neighbors.
Would you state the,
So reinstatement of the 411 service with the addition of adjacent counties and state partners. And then go into will be a top priority.
Yeah. And take the financial picture, think completely out. We're looking for their cooperation.
Well, I mean, or it
be a
can,
top priority?
of the board as Island Trend's financial picture continues to improve. I'm fine with that,
Okay.
but I don't want to imply to legislators or our neighboring counties that if our financial picture improves, that we are solely responsible for providing this connector service when the economic benefit belongs to the adjacent counties. And the service not being provided is in those adjacent counties. They're not connecting, we are.
I'd support that.
Yeah, I think the letter puts the ball in their court. I like your addition.
Meg, did you get that then
believe
in the
so.
very last sentence?
I have, in the meantime, reinstatement of the 411 service with the addition of adjacent counties and state partners will be a top priority of the board as Highland Transit's financial picture continues to
Yes.
improve.
Would it be safe to say, let's move it forward and bring it to the next meeting for a signature?
Well, we can make a decision during this session, and if the board wants to, and with those corrections, put the letter forward. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the most, so moved.
We have a motion then to approve the letter for the,
As amended.
as amended.
amended.
Yeah, for the, we don't have a motion outlined here, but this is the letter to present to the public regarding the discontinuation of the 411W and 411C.
Well, my understanding from our last meeting to the public, to Senator Bailey, to Congressman Larson, to Norma Smith, to Dave Hayes,
Yeah.
all our representatives and the surrounding
Gadget and
Snohomish, what's left of the SRRTPO, and for general publication to the public.
Okay, let's start this motion all over.
Let's just,
again.
what I'm saying, let's just move the forward letter as amended and bring it to the next meeting for signature.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, would you like this letter personally signed as we've done in the past, or just a notation at the bottom, the Island Transit County Board of, or the Island Transit Board of Directors, without names, or you want the names, or signatures? Or
I think
At our last meeting, we said we were all going to sign it.
we all are going to sign it.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go through this. The motion has been made to bring the final letter forward at the next board meeting as amended, which includes the end of the last paragraph. In the meantime, the reinstatement of the 411 service with the addition of adjacent counties and the state partners will be top priority of the board as Island Transit's financial picture continues to improve. And that will be submitted to our state representatives and to the public at large. And it will be signed by the board of directors. That is the motion, and who made the second?
Nobody but I will.
Okay, the motion was made and seconded by Ms. Henderson. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. So this thing will come forward at our next meeting. Thank you very much. We're going on to item number 3, Saturday service update.
Okay, board, and I believe in particular Commissioner Hanold had
Sorry, don't have to turn it back on.
requested a look at Saturday service as far as future costs are concerned, and that came about in the discussion with 411 other items at the last board meeting. But certainly we did take the request seriously and have worked up some numbers for, and some alternatives for Saturday service. Paul and Sean have put some information together. We've got a handout, if you would like that handout passed around at this point.
One that came out?
Yeah, that's one you said, yeah, we already have it.
Okay.
It's anywhere from 17 to 25,000 a month, depending on the configuration.
Right.
Yeah.
So at this point, we'll say that's open for discussion. If you have the information before you, I think it's pretty clear what those costs would be and what the ranges are. I did send you that.
Well, I think at this point it's just food for thought mainly. It was
Right,
just,
right.
yeah, I was just curious what it would cost.
No, and it was a very interesting exercise too, to see what's involved.
So I think it's a good starting point. One of the things I would be interested in is linkages primarily from ferries into towns. So I don't know if, I'm not as familiar with the routes as I probably should be, but, so I don't know if what we're suggesting here is even giving us the most economic benefit. So I think with a little more analysis on really what are those routes that we think will have the biggest bang for their buck, if you will, in terms of economic development. And then, and then also some Saturday workforce runs, I think, are also important. We've received some feedback from folks about just the difficulties of Saturday employment, especially in our service alternative programs. And then, and I think it's good to have a monthly total, and it might be something that we start seasonally depending upon, just what the demand is. I think obviously at this stage, the monthly cost is outside of our reach until our fund balance is built up, but it looks like something that would be doable in the future. We just have to shop locally a little more. Somebody buy a car. Huh?
Well, no, you still got Dodge.
The old carbon motors are gonna take the fence up.
They don't support.
Just as a general statement, regarding service levels are fairly minimum, generally between, I believe, 8 and 6 o'clock in the evening, something in that range. We attempted to adequately serve the ferry with the Clinton to Freeland route, as well as the Route 1 Clinton to Oak Harbor, which would include Langley and Bush Point. And we wanted to make sure that there was adequate service in Oak Harbor for folks within that area who depend on it greatly for school and not school on Saturday, but for shopping and work purposes. And then of course on Camino, Terry's Corner to Stanwood is a critical link. Oak Harbor to Deception Pass, again, making sure that the north section of the island is covered. So, and these are about as minimal as we would want to go in terms of hours and miles relative to the time period we would serve. So I would say this is bare bones at this point. for each one of these services. Now, you can mix and match them, but each service, these are bare bone numbers. Sean, did you have any? Pretty good.
I appreciate the work on that. I was just curious where we were at and you know, for planning down the road, we'll start drawing some revenue for fares to make it more palatable.
Any other comments regarding this agenda item before we move on? There will be no action on this one. This is information and discussion only. So we're going on to shop item number 4, discussion regarding the budget amendment for the Evans Connector funding and what it means for Island Transit.
Mr. Chairman, I think it might be worthwhile to combine item number 4 and number 5 because we do have a representative from State DOT who is our liaison with the Public Transit Division, and he's kind of our representative, so to speak, in terms of representing our needs from the state as well as taking back to the state our interests and concerns on any public transit issues. And I'd like to maybe combine those two.
I don't have a problem putting those. It's
They have to be
non-action,
combined.
it's information only right now.
Right,
So
right.
with that, we will just move on to 4 and 5.
Okay. I'd like to introduce Ryan Warner, whose official title is Community Link Liaison. He's a representative from, the public transit representative from DOT, and represents, 5 counties?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Ryan, you have
Hello, welcome.
comments?
Thank you for the time. I just wanted to, I came up here late last week and talked to the staff a little bit about, specifically about what the Everett Connector piece in the budget meant. Are they familiar with where we're at?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What it meant for Island Transit, and then what the Public Transit Division is thinking about in terms of this particular little quirk in our transportation budget. And one of the things that we are proposing is, I know you guys have been talking about doing a study, and I think that's a really good thing to start to look at what fares can bring in, what it's going to cost. One of the things I would ask you to think about though is a study done by Island Transit the right person to be, is Island Transit the right group to be heading that study? What I would propose back to you is that I think it should be a combination of the Public Transportation Division at WSDOT and the Office of Financial Management, which is the group that sort of feeds into the legislature. We have gotten some initial support from the Public Transportation Division at WSDOT to hire an individual to do this study. We have someone in mind who has done similar studies on fare analysis for systems that for a long time were fare free. Then to look at the pluses and minuses, and also some of the costs and what are some of the benefits. This person also knows a lot of the comparable systems. When you're looking at comparables within Washington State to Island Transit, you have to look at, of course, some of the smallest counties, and it's anywhere from 2 to 4%. So that is kind of what we're looking at right now. I'd be willing to answer any questions you have.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Ryan. I'll start with the statement. So DOT takes the lead on this, and at what cost to us for doing the fares, is my question.
Nothing?
Okay, I would propose.
Kind of where I thought you were going to go with that. And this is the other thing. I mean,
Yeah.
so if we pay for this study, once the study is completed, we want to be able to, and we work with OFM to complete the study. We want to then take it to the Joint Transportation Committee, which is the House and Senate Transportation Committee, with the results. And we don't know what the results will be necessarily, but my unofficial guess to this is that charging fares may not be the best thing for Island County. We don't know. We want to be able to take it though to the Joint Transportation Committee and say, here's what we've found through a study. But the point being is it's not a study that you guys are actually paying for. It's not a study with your name on it per se, which is also really good. It makes it more of a third-party analysis.
And how long would that take?
Well, the legislature hasn't even gotten out of session yet.
Right.
So, and OFM tends to be pretty backed up. This is a priority in this area. It's a priority of mine because until we get this straightened out, not only is the Ever Connector, which there's money for, not moving, but it's stalling up a lot of other things as well. So I'd like to get this moving sooner rather than later.
If the study comes up, because I think I've seen, I'm not sure who did Martha Rose's study. I've got a copy of it. I'd have to look at it. It says that it wouldn't be beneficial to county to charge fares because the recovery rate would be too low. I would tend to argue that, but besides the point, if it comes up and says that they don't recommend that we charge a fare, are they going to make recommendations at the state level for funding to
Say that again.
where the study, if the study were to come up and say that Island Transit, it would not be feasible for them to charge a fare, would they then go to the Joint Transportation Committee and say, well, we recommend, because it's not feasible for them to charge a fare, that you do some sort of grant funding to allow us to continue operating?
I don't think so.
Okay. So then I would say, I have no problem with them at zero cost. I just would like to make sure that it is an, I don't know how to place it.
Well, the final decision will be with us anyway.
Yeah, I know the fine, yeah. Well, this doesn't cost anything, but if you go in with the perception of other counties this small, it didn't make sense for them to charge a fare. If you go with that preconceived notion, you're gonna come out with probably that result for your study for this county.
Well, this
So I
county,
wanted to go in with no preconceived.
yeah. And this county is also very unique. I didn't tell you this, but in terms of the specific ruralness of it, you know, there's a ferry, you know, you're fairly isolated here.
We're not contiguously connected.
Thank you. It's a very good way to say it.
Yes.
And we're not having very good success with the adjoining transit districts meeting us at our borders. You know, that has as much impact on us as the fare issue.
Think of the folks on Camino, if they've got to go to court for a ticket, or if they get called to jury duty and they don't have transportation, they can't be there.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Lynn.
I think the other commissioner kind of stepped in the area I was going to ask you. So if it came out, hypothetically, that this study said we don't recommend charging fares, what's the option then for, in order to keep the system financially stable? They took the funding away, the state, put the funding back. I mean, I know you kind of said you weren't sure, but, I mean...
Well, I mean, in the legislation, it is only for the Ever Connector. Keep that in mind.
Right.
It's only for the Ever Connector. So that, you know, is specific to that fund. So in terms of if they said, you know, if you guys didn't want to charge fares, that continues to be up to this, at this point.
There's no
up to this
Ever
body.
Connector if we don't charge fares,
Yeah.
according to
Well,
that.
and
Yes.
there's no Ever Connector, I mean, Skagit doesn't get their money if
Yeah.
we don't get our money, and there's no sense in us getting our money if we can't have 411 route, because that's half the Ever Connector. So, it's a catch-22.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're kind of holding Skagit hostage.
Yes.
So obviously I like free.
I like it.
I do have some concerns about an economic analysis only and not including socioeconomic factors. So what would be your plan to address that?
I would really like to have this board sit down, if we move this forward, at least on a temporary basis, if I can get your buy-off, I would like to have and once we get around to hiring a consultant, I would like to have him actually sit down with you, either in a work session or at some meeting, and hear from you. And that can also be done over email and whatever public way is possible. You know, so he can hear your concerns and you can be part of that. He has read the RFP that was put out, the draft of the RFP, so he knows some of the concerns that are already built up there and what you're wanting already. So that's already there.
So your person's already on board?
No, the person is not on board already.
But this is at no cost Island Transit.
Zero.
I would say, I'd make a motion that, but,
You do have a chance to.
yes, I want to make a motion that we accept Mr. Warner's proposal for a no-cost study.
The motion has
Bring
been
your
made.
representative forward, or however you want to do it.
I just,
We have a motion out there, we're going to look for a second, but the motion is that the board authorize the Island Transit to proceed with direction to Washington State Department of Transportation through Mr. Warner to proceed with the study, the rate study on behalf of Island Transit. And there's a second here from Mr. Allen. Now, any further discussion?
yes, I just wondered if Ken or staff had any comments to make about it, if you like the idea and would Ken be working with you? No? Okay, then you're good with all of that? Ken?
Yes, we had this discussion on last Thursday, when the item was mentioned by Ryan, that it was going to, that they were looking at other counties as well. And it sounded like there was a parallel, maybe a parallel effort if we were doing our own study, and I asked him if could this possibly be combined with the state's efforts. And I think we had a very good constructive conversation after that relative to what the state was doing and what our needs are, and I'm wholeheartedly supportive of the effort. But I would ask if that also includes curtailment then of us going out with our RFP at this point. That
We haven't submitted the RFP yet?
we haven't put anything out for advertising yet. We
Okay,
haven't
let's
advertised.
get through this motion, and then we'll
Okay.
entertain another motion to.
Actually, I'll wait till the next meeting to do that.
Or,
Yeah,
yeah,
just not, yeah.
That's it, the draft was coming to us next week anyway.
Jill, you had some questions or comments?
Well, I think I'm going to vote no, not because I'm not necessarily in agreement of doing it free, because but I haven't had enough time to really think through all the consequences of your offer. I have some similar concerns about the preliminary announcement that you think that it won't work. That concerns me. My level of trust in state agencies and their ability to provide information, sans agenda, is not high, respectfully. And so what I really want to do is be able to talk through some of those other community-related issues prior to agreeing to do this. That it's very important to me that we get accurate information. We're making the best decision, but part of that decision includes this board's ability to pass future sales tax increases for Island Transit, which I believe will never happen again until people pay. Our state funding is not guaranteed in any way, so there's no way for us to meet escalating costs of this organization. I mean, the costs increase just because a year passes. So how without state funding and fares are we able to keep pace with escalating costs other than continuing to shrink service. So I appreciate like what the offer is, and maybe what I'm saying is I already have a preconceived outcome in my mind, which is probably more honest, because what I want to make sure is that we're not just looking at this through a pure lens, because this isn't a pure situation. There are ramifications for what we do and what we don't do, and if those things aren't included in the thought process of the study, we may be left with something that says, well, it doesn't pencil out here, but it doesn't factor in all of the other economic benefits that accompany a fair. And because this is the first time I've heard this presentation, I just need a little more time, so I'm going to vote.
And my apologies for not being able to give you a broader presentation, more detailed presentation rather. I was just here on Thursday and haven't gotten a lot of
Sure.
time to prepare.
It's probably a good idea, but again, we don't have a lot of options. And so the idea that the state, and by the way, the state is one that told us to charge a fare. So the idea that state agencies would look at this and say, well, no, actually it doesn't make sense for you, does not take into any consideration any of the on-the-ground realities that we're facing. And I just need to have some kind of comfort level that there's an understanding that it's not just about the dollar you collect at the fare box. It's about the additional revenue that we're somehow being denied because we don't collect that dollar. And if we lose 50 cents on every dollar, but we make $2 over here in grants or the willingness of a community to support a sales tax increase or something else, I just need to know how that's going to be considered and factored in.
Any other comments? I have a comment. I'm going to follow up on this too. Take a look at the letter that we have just voted on to submit to our representatives. And we're basically saying we are not going to cover these other areas until our financial position improves. And I don't want to do something that impedes that process of negotiation. I think that more of the pressure is being put on our representatives to bring the other transit districts to the table to talk about fulfilling their obligation. I see more opportunity for us to have those other districts fulfill their obligation as it connects in with us. And quite frankly, I would rather make the decision regarding fares after we have connectivity, as opposed to trying to work independently. Say, well, we're going to charge fares here and give people maybe the false hope that we're going to add these other routes in. We're not picking up the slack. At least this commissioner is not voting for picking up the slack for continuing this requirement to go into the other districts and provide service to them at our expense. Does that make any sense to the rest
Well,
of
if I'm hearing correctly, maybe we should table this until we've got a little more information then. That's because it sounds like this is a far longer discussion than we could have in 10 minutes ago.